Let me tell you a story. It's about what happens when you have a truly world-changing idea, but you find yourself playing a game that feels completely rigged against you from the start. It's a story about innovation, about raw power, and about what it takes to just build a whole new system when the old one is designed to make you fail. This is the playbook for winning a game that feels impossible. So here's the big question, right? For any creator, any inventor, any scientist out there, this is a terrifying thought. You've got the patent, you've got the brilliant innovation, but what happens when you're up against an opponent with basically infinite resources? What do you even do? Okay, so it all kicks off right here with this email from late 2022. And this is not just any email. It's from a major law firm, and they're attaching a draft letter they've prepared. And that letter is addressed to one of the biggest companies on the entire planet, Apple. And you gotta understand, the stakes here are huge. This letter basically puts Apple on notice. It claims their new, heavily promoted passkey system, the thing that's supposed to replace all our passwords, infringes on a patent for some really clever crypto tech. And that patent is held by a tiny company called Pouch. I mean, it is the classic David versus Goliath story. But here's where it gets interesting. That letter, it was never actually sent. And this is the reaction from one of Pouch's shareholders when they found out. Probably a great decision considering Apple's resources, LOL. That LOL says it all, doesn't it? That's the sound of someone who knows the score, who recognizes just how lopsided this fight would be. And this was the final call from the inventor himself, a guy named SM Abadir. Holding for now. Other stuff I don't want to poke the bear on. Poking the bear. So why the fear? Why wouldn't you fight for your own patent? Well, to get that, you really have to understand the inventor. To really get why he'd back down, and to really wrap your head around the absolutely extraordinary claims he's about to make, you have to understand the extraordinary founder behind it all. So let's talk about SM Abadar. You see, Abadar isn't just one thing. He's this incredible and very rare mix of three different experts all rolled into one. He's a foundational mathematician, a massive-scale systems engineer, and a super savvy IP strategist. And this unique combination is, believe me, crucial to this entire story. And let's just break that down for a second. His math background comes from MIT, where he studied under the legendary Giancarlo Rota. As an engineer, he's not just a theorist, he built and sold a developer platform to Intel. And as a strategist, he's got a law degree and has successfully sold IP to giants like Eli Lilly. So this is definitely not his first rodeo. He gets the tech, the law, and the business of ideas from the ground up. So a guy with this resume, you'd think he'd be ready to go to war, right? He should be confident. Which brings us right back to that question. Why was he so afraid to poke the bear? Well, turns out it's because he'd been mauled by that exact same bear once before. Let's rewind the clock to 2008. The App Store was brand new. Abadir's company launched an app called FlyTunes, and it was a monster hit. Right out of the gate, we're talking hundreds of thousands of new users every day. But then, Apple allegedly just pulled it. Gone. The entire market was just handed over to competitors like Pandora. The final nail in the coffin? Apple then took the name and slow-walked the approval of their replacement app until the company basically bled out. And don't just take my word for it. These are Abadar's own words about that whole ordeal. If they get into an IP dispute with you, it gets ugly quickly. It effectively killed us. That experience, it's the ghost that haunts this whole story. It's the reason for the caution. It's the painful lesson that having a great idea is not enough when you're playing on somebody else's turf by their rules. So what do you do after getting burned that badly? You could just walk away. Or if you're someone like Abadir, you realize the only winning move is to stop playing their game altogether. You decide to build a new one with a completely different set of rules. And this is the solution that was born from all that pain. DSciX. It's designed to be the antidote to the exact kind of thing that killed FlyTunes. Think of it as part virtual university, part app store, where creators can work together, but, and this is the most important part, where they can actually own and control the value of their own work. And this slide, man, it just lays out the whole philosophy perfectly. The old way, you're stuck with litigation and retaliation. The new way, community ownership. Instead of a centralized platform taking its cut, the value is decentralized. And here is the absolute game changer. Instead of selling off pieces of your company to VCs, you earn your stake by contributing. It totally flips the script from a winner-take-all model to something new he calls the IPO. Okay, so you've built this radical new system. How do you prove it actually works? You need a test case. And not just any test case. You need something so profound, so audacious, that it would be impossible to build and protect using the old, broken model. You need a challenge that justifies building a whole new world. And that test case starts with a completely new foundational mathematics that Abadar developed, building on the work of his MIT mentor. It's called electronic graph paper theory, or EGPT for short. Now, this is not just some theory scribbled in a notebook. The claims made by this system are backed by a formally verified machine-checked proof. That means a computer has checked the logic. It's not up for debate or interpretation. It's auditable code. It either works or it doesn't. There's no middle ground. So what does this unbelievably rigorous, machine-checked proof claim to have solved? Oh, just P versus NP. Only one of the most famous, multi-million-dollar unsolved problems in all of computer science. And after decades of debate, this proof claims the answer is yes. P equals NP. And here it is. This is the actual code from the proof. And I know what you're thinking. That's it? It looks shockingly simple. But the claim here is that the P versus NP problem was never some deep computational mystery to begin with. It was a fundamental bookkeeping error in how we define information. By redoing the math from the ground up with EGBT, that whole distinction between finding a solution and checking it just collapses. So let's just zoom out for a second. We have an inventor who gets burned by a tech giant, who then builds a whole new system to protect creators, and then uses that system to house a potential solution to one of the biggest problems in mathematics. It's an incredible story, but the goal isn't just to protect this one idea. It's to create a repeatable playbook that anyone can use. And this is the engine that makes the whole playbook run, the intellectual property IPO. Here's how it works. Instead of selling equity to a handful of investors, you turn your idea, whether it's the pouch patent, the DaySciX platform itself, or the EGPT math, into a crypto token. This means anyone who contributes, whether with code, marketing, whatever, earns ownership. They get a real stake. And the community of owners decides when it's ready for the market, making sure the value flows back to the people who actually built the thing. And it really all boils down to this mission. It's a call to action for every creator who's ever felt powerless. It's about reframing investment, not as giving away a piece of your dream, but as investing your own brain power into a community where you keep that ownership and you share in the rewards. Which leaves us with a pretty big question. We're at a crossroads. Are we gonna keep going down a path where these amazing, groundbreaking ideas are just captured by closed systems and a handful of powerful players? Or do stories like this show us a different way forward? A future where the people who actually build the next breakthrough get to own it?